listening. And remember what I said about questions, that there will be a time for that.
Alright, so hold on the questions. So we're from the Blue Ridge Wildlife Institute. I'm Brooke.
I'm Amanda.
And I'm Maggie.
Teachers and students, please excuse the interruption. If the fire alarm were to go off, it's not a drill. Just ignore that until Miss Lonnie gives you an all clear. But for the next 30 minutes, there could be that it could go off because they're working on it. Thank you.
Okay, eyes and ears.
Alright, so you guys are let's pretend that you guys are just waking up. You know, you stretch in the morning, the sun's shining, maybe you're gonna eat breakfast, and then you're gonna go to school. You guys do this every morning, right? Yeah. So let's read this together. Can we say that? Right. And this is what it's called when you get up in the morning when the sun's out. This is when you live at the same time. This is when you wake up at the same time the sun does. So now let's all close our eyes. Right?
Close your eyes.
And let's pretend it's dark out and the moon's up, and the moon's shining, and you got all the night creatures out, bats and owls, and if you can open your eyes now. If you were this word, let's say all say it together. Nocturnal. Yes.
Just know that word.
Yeah, they know that one. So if you're nocturnal, then you wake up when the moon wakes up. So every animal has an adaptation. Do you guys know what an adaptation is?
No.
No. So let's say adaptation.
Adaptation.
So an adaptation is a specific skill or behavior that animals have to live in their home. So every animal has a specific adaptation to live in the day or the night. So as we show you these really cool animals, we're going to show you these specific adaptations that let them live in the night or the day. And let's see if you guys notice the difference between nocturnal and diurnal, especially since we are diurnal, right? We get up with the sun. So all these animals, some get up with the moon and some get up with the sun. And depending on their adaptation, it's when they wake up, when they eat, where they live, and what do they do when they're sleeping. So be careful, because one of these animals is neither day or night. They're a special animal. So here at the Blue Ridge Wildlife Institute, when you find an injured or an orphaned animal, have you guys ever found an injured or orphaned animal? Yes? Well, when you find one, you go tell your parents or guardians, and you have them call a wildlife rehabilitation center. And they will help you safely catch this animal and bring it to the rehabilitation center. Now remember, your safety is first. So always keep that in mind when you're with wild animals. So these animals are all wild, and for some reason or another, they were brought into us and they cannot be released due to injuries and that would prohibit them from being successful in the wild. So these are our ambassadors, and they're here to educate you guys today and tell you about themselves. So let's remember that the wild animals are kind of shy, so let's stay really quiet and really still. And you might hear or see something really cool. You guys ready?
Yes. Yes.
So who was it that asked about owls? All
I love
great.
owls.
So this is the northern saw-whet owl. His name is Nod. He's 11 years old. He was brought to us because he was hit by a car and he has permanent brain damage, so he can't be released into the wild. Northern saw-whet owls are found all over North America, into Canada. You waving at him? He can't wave back. Yeah, sorry. They're found down into the Rocky Mountains. We do have them here in the higher elevation Appalachian Mountains. The Appalachian Mountains are the second most endangered ecosystem in the world. At Appalachian State University, they did a study that showed that we actually have a high number here in the elevated mountains. That is Hamlet. Hamlet was hit by a car too and has a wing fracture, and she also can't be released. They're nocturnal. Does anybody know what? Okay, yes, I can first.
It means you're active only in the night.
Good. All right. So their eyes help them see really, really well at night. It's like having night vision. They get their name from the sound they make. It sounds like a saw being sharpened on a whetting stone, so it's like a whistle noise. Their camouflage color helps them blend in with the trees, and they're experts at the quiet game. How many people here like the quiet game? Well, he's really, really good at it. He can sit there and you can walk right up to him and you wouldn't even see him because he'd just be so still and so quiet. He'd blend right in with the trees. They eat small deer mice and other small rodents and the occasional small bird, but they are so small they weigh less than a pound. They are prey to larger birds of prey like bigger owls, and hogs. And if you're quiet enough and you go into the woods, you may just be lucky enough to see one of these guys.
Can
Any
I
questions? Thank you.
Were they both hit together by the same car?
No, they were hit at separate times.
Oh, I was
No questions? All right.
Can they fly?
No, they're both non-flighted.
They actually broke their wing,
Yeah.
so they can't fly
He
as
was
well.
broke his wing and he's braided. Yeah.
That's why they have to take it.
Do their heads move all the way around?
Not all the way around. They actually have, humans have 7 vertebrae and they have 14, which means we can only move ours 180 degrees. So you guys do that left and right? Great. Yeah, they can do 270 degrees, which is like 3/4 of a clock.
Not a whole circle, but pretty close.
Yeah, not a whole circle. So yeah, watch out when you guys are driving because these guys, they have tunnel vision. Can you guys go like this? Great. Yeah? Both hands?
Yeah.
That's how they see across the road. So when you guys cross the road, you guys look both ways, right? Good, good. You should, that's safe. Well, these guys, they can't do that. So they just see that mouse right across the road, and they just go right for it. And that's why a lot of them
They
get hit
just
by
have to
cars.
turn their heads like,
Yeah, they just can't do that. They get locked right on
yeah,
that
they can't
mouse.
move their eyes.
Not really, they gotta move their whole
They
head.
don't see the
So they
car.
like lock right in on it, and they get hit by cars. So yeah, just watch out. So you don't want to hit one of these guys. They're pretty cool animals. Yeah.
What's that blue rope?
This is a rope that's attached to his chest and it helps in case he like gets spooked. He doesn't fall straight to the ground. I can bring him right back up here. Yeah.
Can't the owls just fly over the cars?
Well, they don't see him, so when they go right across, the car hits them right like that, and they just don't see him. They can't get out of the way. Well, if he goes up, he'll come right back down because he's attached to this rope right
We
here.
could do the what if game all day.
Okay. All
So I know you guys have some questions, but we'll answer them at the end, okay? Alright, so now we have a mystery box. And in this mystery box, there's something in here that belongs to the next animal that's coming out. So can I have a volunteer? Let's have you and the pink and striped shirt. Don't worry, there'll be other chances for other volunteers. So you want to put your hand in here and pull out the item?
Reach in.
It won't bite you.
No, trust me, nothing's gonna bite. What's that? Yes. Is there anything else in here? Peanuts. And acorns. Alright, you can get some. So these are peanuts and acorns. And the next thing that we're bringing out actually spread so many acorns they plant new oak trees. You guys ready?
Whoa, a blue jay. Blue jay.
Upside down.
Heard you guys say the name. This is Charlie, and she's a blue jay. So you probably guys see these all the time in your backyard.
I
right?
do.
Yeah.
They always do.
So a lot of people actually think that blue jays go around in other birds' nests and steal their eggs, right? But they actually don't do that. Eggs actually don't make up a large portion of their diet. And like we saw on the mystery box, a lot of their diet is composed of peanuts and nuts and acorns. So they can peck those right open with their really sharp beak. And they actually are able to store up to 4 acorns in their throat, kind of like a hamster. And because they do this, they go around in the daytime, because they're diurnal, and they go around and they store acorns all over the place. And they forget about us. Like we kind of forget how to do our homework and stuff like that. So they forget about them, and those acorns get planted in the ground, and then they sprout up into oak trees. So because of this, they're actually very helpful, and they help spread oak trees. Blue jays are actually really good at mimicry. So in the wild, a blue jay will go up to a bird feeder, probably have some of those in your backyard as well, and they'll go up and they'll mimic a call of a red-tailed hawk, which you'll see later in the presentation. They'll mimic the call of a red-tailed hawk, and they'll scare away all the other birds, so they'll steal all the nuts and goodies for themselves. But at the rehab center, Charlie here doesn't mimic a red-tailed hawk, she mimics the telephone. So can you guys mimic the telephone with me?
Ring, 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 ring.
So now I want you all to raise your hand if you have a cat at home. Right? Okay, now I want you to keep your hand raised if that cat has a little bell on its collar. Oh, that's really good. That's really good. So cat attacks are actually the #1 reason we get blue jays here at the rehab center. So if you want to help Charlie out and others like her in the wild, if you go home and put a bell on their collar, it'll help the blue jays hear the cat coming and they won't get attacked as often. So any questions?
What happened to him?
Oh, Charlie here was attacked by a cat, as I said. So she has a wing fracture. So if you notice, her wing kind of droops down like normal, so she can't fly as well.
Why was he trying to
Pet
eat
cat
your,
thing?
yeah,
Blue Jay, or Charlie here, is really, really smart. So she gets really bored easily. So she's just trying to look at something to do when she gets bored. That's
Trying to get attention a lot.
She is about 3 years old. So we got her, what year did she come to the center?
I think she's more than 3. Maybe she's not. Maybe she is 3.
So about 3 years ago. Yes.
How long have you had?
We had her about the center at 3 years.
She was a baby.
Yeah.
Can she at least fly a little bit?
She can fly a little bit, but not quite as well as other blue jays. So she can fly across the room, but she can't really escape predators. So that's why she's here at the rehab center.
Can you make her fly?
No.
If not, she'll fly out the door?
No,
Make it worse.
Yeah.
she just might be scared.
Yeah.
We don't want to scare her.
Why would fly out the door if she's scared? Well, okay.
Maybe. You'll catch her?
Alright. So even though the mystery box, alright? And this item that belongs to the next animal might go something out, so we really need a brave volunteer, because this is what they wear. So, right here. What is it?
A snake.
It's it's the skin of a snake.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
Yes. And this is what they use to make them around. Do you want to take that and tap it around?
They have to be very gentle, but don't mash it up, because it'll work.
Okay, so before I bring out these next guys, is there anybody here that's afraid of snakes? You are? You guys? Okay. If you want, you can scoot back just a little bit, promise not to hurt you.
Okay.
If the girls can hold confidently.
Remember to just stay quiet.
Because you're in the woods a lot, you might see something.
Okay, now pay attention.
Okay, so this is Benny and Artemis. They're corn snakes. They're a little bit off colored right now because they're getting ready to shed their skin, so they'll get the, I don't know where that's.
Right here.
But they'll get ready to give you one of those here in about a week or so. At the end, you guys will be allowed to touch them only if you want to, you don't have to. So corn snakes get their name from the pattern on their stomach. It resembles Native American corn or maize.
Yeah, it looks
Did
like
you-
one.
Yep. They are non-venomous, which is why we're allowed to handle them. There's a couple different ways you can tell the difference between a venomous and a non-venomous snake.
Could they bite you?
Yeah, they can bite.
Does everybody know what venomous means?
Poisonous. Poisonous.
Okay.
So there's a couple different ways you can tell. Venomous snakes have diamond-shaped heads, so like rattlesnakes, they have a diamond-shaped head, and their eyes look like cat eyes because they go straight up and down. They kind of look like diamonds also. Corn snakes, see, they have a rounded head, and you can't really see their eyes, but the pupils are very rounded, so that's how you tell they're non-venomous. Would be handling if they weren't. Snakes are basically one big muscle. So can you guys put your hands together like this, and then squeeze them as hard as you can? Great. So that's what they do to their prey. They are called constrictors, which means they squeeze all the air out of the prey and then they eat them whole.
Like a boa?
Yeah.
Right, like a boa. Boas are constrictors. Great. Yeah. So they
bigger.
yeah. This one's all coiled up. But yeah. So they like to eat small rodents and the occasional small bird.
Like corn houses.
Mm-hmm.
Owls.
Not quite
They don't eat owls. But they also are prey to things like owls. Things like owls do eat them, and also hawks, like you'll see later in the presentation. They do like to eat them. They're found on the eastern coast of the United States. These ones are born in captivity, so they can't be released into the wild. They are found, a majority of them are found down in the southern part of the East Coast, so like Florida, Louisiana, Georgia. That's where they're most common. But you can't find them in North Carolina. These guys, they aren't endangered, but in Florida they were put on the species to watch list. So for habitat destruction, people building houses and tearing down forests, you know, stuff like that. They lose their homes. It's pretty sad, yeah. So the number one reason we get snakes into the center is from domestic animal attacks, like cats, just like Charlie. Charlie was attacked by a cat. Snakes can get attacked by cats, and also dogs too. So if you guys could do the same thing that you guys did with cats, that would help Charlie, put a bell on their collar, that would help dog snakes too.
Do we have any questions?
Any questions?
I have a question.
Okay,
Asking,
How long have
telling.
you How long have you had them?
we've
Bindi, we've only had a year, so which one is Bindi?
uh,
That one's Bindi. And then the other one we've had probably for 8 years or
yeah,
so.
he was older, yeah.
Mhm.
Artemis was older.
What's he part of it?
Artemis.
Yep.
Eagles can attack.
No, wait a minute, not a statement, a question. Do you have a question?
Why do eagles always attack snakes?
Well, because they like to eat them. Eagles think they taste really good, so that's why they like to. All right, I'll take 2 more questions, and I'm gonna have to pay
That was
the guys
good,
back.
that was a question.
See you.
Good.
What happened to them?
Nothing happened to them. These 2 were born in captivity, which means they were born not in the wild, so they can't be released back in the wild because they just wouldn't know how to live normal lives in the wild.
Why couldn't you find the longest snake ever?
Why couldn't I? Because I would have to go far away from Banner Oak, North Carolina to find the biggest snake ever, and I
Oh,
just
I mean the longest, like the one as long as Buzz. Oh
yeah, I could not go find that
No,
one.
we,
That
that
one
one's
Elijah,
today.
that one doesn't
Yes,
live.
that doesn't live. Yeah,
Yeah,
I wouldn't be able to hold them.
Because the only place I seen them is at my house.
Yeah.
Be very gentle with it.
We find
Very gentle.
that. There must be.
Wash your hands. Listen.
This is Sammy. Sammy's an eastern screech owl, and they're found in the eastern half of the United States. And Sammy came into us as a baby. And we're not sure if he got hit by a car or he fell in a nest, but he has brain damage, which means he has no survival instincts. So he can't be released to the wild because he won't know how to live as a wild owl. Sammy is what is known as a gray face, and this means he has gray feathers. So the color of an eastern screech owl's feathers is extremely important as to knowing where they live. So Sammy, if he lived out in the wild, would live closest to the trunk of the tree, where he's the same color as the bark, right? And there's also the red face, which have red feathers, and they live in the branch part of the tree to blend in with the leaves. And because they are nocturnal, they sit in the trees all day when the sun is out, sleeping, waiting for the moon to come out so they can go out and be active. And if they were to be disturbed by an enemy or a threat or a predator, they have 2 defense mechanisms. The first is they puff up really, really big, and they have these ear tufts on top of their head. His aren't sticking up right now. But they would fit their ear tufts, which aren't ears, they're just feathers, and look as big and as intimidating as possible. The second defense mechanism is they get really, really skinny, and they get as skinny as possible and flatten up against a tree, hoping to disappear from sight. And sometimes upon close glance, you can't see them. They're that good at skinnying up and being still. Eastern screech owls, because they are nocturnal, are very good night hunters. As you can see, Sammy has very large eyes, and this helps him see at night. Sammy's eyes are so large in his head that he cannot move them. There is no room in his head for his eyes to move, which is why he has to keep looking around to see all around him. And you remember how she said owls cannot turn their head all the way around. So, especially for Sammy, who can't move his eyes, it helps being able to turn your head 10 to 7 degrees, right? And so, can we have a volunteer?
Volunteer. Well, I saw her hand.
Come up here. Stand right here. Take these oranges and hold them up to your head, kind of like next to your eyes.
Yeah.
Now face. Yeah. Now, those oranges are a lot bigger than her eyes, right? So if she was an Easton Screech Owl, this is how big her eyes would be, the oranges. Which, that is very large eyes.
You want to sit down?
Can you imagine having eyes that big?
Yeah.
Those are really big eyes. Easton Screech Owls are also pretty good flyers. They can flap their wings 5 times a second. So if we flap our wings 5 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So imagine doing that every second, how far you get. It's pretty far, right? So Sammy likes to eat small rodents, small birds, sometimes smaller owls. At the center, he loves to eat mice. And when the sun starts to set, they come out right at dusk and hunt for the next 4 hours usually. So when you're out in the car with your parents or your guardian, just say, hey, there might be an Easton Screech Owl crossing the road. Keep an eye out, because that's the biggest reason why they come in the center. Any questions? Yes.
How did he get hurt?
We're not sure. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes animals come in and because they can't talk and say, hey, this happened to me, you know. So,
Yeah. How far can he live?
270 degrees about, which is almost on the map, but not quite.
Not
Yeah.
quite a
It's not a full
complete
circle.
circle.
Yeah.
The
But it's more
circle
than
would be
half a circle.
360 degrees.
And they can move 270 degrees, which is pretty far. But it looks like he's moving them all around because his neck is actually really skinny. He just has a lot of feathers.
I can move mine that far.
Any other questions? All right.
Okay, so we have another mystery box. Can I get another volunteer? What's your name? Try to figure out what it is. Oh, okay. We brought a chicken because the next guy that's coming out, he loves to eat chicks at the rehab center. If you take a look at his feet, the yellow chicks turn his feet. So,
Now I need you guys to be really quiet because this guy gets a little bit of stage fright and he gets really nervous. So we can hold your questions till the end. So this is Zeus, and Zeus here is a peregrine falcon. So I want everyone to hold out their hands kind of like this, and I want you to pretend that you're in a jet plane, okay? So does everybody got their jet planes ready? Yeah? So I want you to pretend that you're flying high above the sky, and all the clouds are looking past you, and you can see all the buildings and cars right above you. And then all of a sudden, you're going faster. You're going really, really fast. And then you're diving. You're diving over 200 miles per hour. That's what it's, yeah, he's pretending to be in a jet plane too. So,
Whoa! It was big.
so if you, that's called baiting. And so if you guys can work on being really, really quiet, he's getting nervous, so that's why he's doing that. So that's what it's like to be a peregrine falcon, is to be in a jet plane. So peregrine falcons love heights. So in the wild, they nest on really tall cliff sides, and they can be seen nesting in really tall skyscrapers and on the top of bridges. So peregrine falcons love nothing more than soaring high above the sky. So they're diurnal. So can everyone say that with me again? Diurnal. Good, very good. Zeus here eats other chicks and songbirds. So when they see when they're flying, they'll see a songbird and then they'll dive at speeds 3 times faster than a cheetah. So that actually makes them the world's fastest animal, right?
Cool.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So he likes heights, so he's trying to get on top of my head.
Okay, we gotta be really quiet because he's
Naya, could you help me out?
feeling very, very nervous.
So we're actually going to end up putting him up because he's very nervous right now.
Oh!
Guys, please be quiet.
Remember how you guys said you like right games? Right game. So he really likes heights, so he's trying to get up on top of my head.
He's cute.
Yeah. So they dive at over speeds like 200 miles per hour, so that's almost faster than some planes, right? So if you notice, I can't point them out now, but Zeus here has really long toes, so kind of like our fingers. And so when they see a bird in the air, they'll dive, and then they'll football tackle that bird out of the air, and they'll pin them out with these really long talons. And so back in the 1960s and 70s, do you guys know what a pesticide is?
No.
No? Okay. Well, a pesticide is a chemical that farmers spray on all the corn and crops in order to help keep bugs away. So, but in the 1960s and 70s, a pesticide called DDT not only killed all the bugs, but they actually ended up harming the peregrine falcons. So when two falcons would get together and they'd go and lay eggs, the egg shells would be softer than normal. So when the mom would sit on them, they'd get crushed. And that's really sad, right? That'd be almost like, you know, your mom and dad not being able to have you or your siblings if you have them. So, but a bunch of wildlife activists, kind of like us three and Miss Nina over here, got together and we helped convince the government to ban DDT. And so now peregrine falcon numbers are back to normal. So they got removed off the endangered species list.
That's good.
And Grandfather Mountain, how many of you have been to Grandfather Mountain?
I went yesterday.
Well,
Oh,
Grandfather,
When I
cool.
was a baby.
Grandfather Mountain was actually one of the first release sites for peregrine falcons. And so because of this, now that you can see peregrine falcons on every single continent except Antarctica, so no matter where you go, if you keep an eye to the sky, you may be able to see Zeus or one of them flying away.
What is the name?
Does anyone have any questions about peregrine falcons? I saw your hand up first.
What happened to Zeus?
Zeus here, he was hit by a car, and so when he eats, he really likes chicks, so his feet are bright yellow, and so when he's eating, his eye will start bubbling up, kind of like a really disgusting root beer float, and that's because he suffered brain damage, so he doesn't behave like a normal peregrine falcon.
So he likes chicks?
Yes. He's the ladies' man.
How old is he?
Zeus here, how old is Zeus?
Well, Zeus, I guess he was a young bird. He came to us about 8 years ago.
Yeah.
So he's 7 years old.
No, he would be 9. I think he was a year old. Just a year.
How can he fly? How much can he fly?
He can actually fly. He's pretty good, as you saw. But he's brain damaged, so he doesn't behave quite like a regular peregrine falcon. So he wouldn't know how to act in wild. Okay, we got another animal for you. So,
Can I do the box this time?
no, we ran out of boxes.
That was the eagle.
This is Captain, and Captain is a red-tailed hawk. Can anybody tell me why it's called a red-tailed hawk? Yeah.
Because his tail is red?
Correct. As you can see, Captain has a red tail. It's pretty, isn't it? So, there are two main reasons why red-tailed hawks come into the center. The first is getting hit by a car. And he's rousing. He's getting comfortable. He kind of looks funny, doesn't he?
Yeah, he looks like a big owl. He looks like he's smiling.
Yeah.
He looks
Yeah.
like an eagle.
There's the hawk. And so, one of the biggest reasons why they come in is they get hit by a car. So what happens is, you know, somebody's driving down the road and they throw out food trash from food litter saying, "Oh, it's biodegradable." Do we know what that means?
No.
No? Yeah, you do you? What?
It makes him fly.
Why don't you help her out? It's something that in the environment that we put it out in the ground or something, it goes back into the earth. So it doesn't, you know how you see styrofoam just sits out there? Styrofoam is not biodegradable. But like an apple core, you put it outside, it turns back into dirt.
Or a banana peel.
Or banana peel or any
Or eggs.
right. So people say, oh, it's going to biodegrade. It's not going to harm the environment. But what happens is it lands right next to the road. And then like a little mouse comes up and starts nibbling on it. Well, on the other side of the road, Captain sees the little mouse. And he doesn't look both ways like you are taught to because he has that tunnel vision. Right, the tunnel vision. So he swoops down and ends up getting hit by a car. So now Captain is blind in his right eye, which means he can't see me right now unless he turns his head. And because of this, we cannot release him back to the wild because we don't think he could hunt successfully. And the second reason why we get red-tailed hawks in is gunshots. You remember how Zeus loves to eat chicks and he eats them a lot and he turns yellow? Well, Captain here isn't much of a fan of chicks like Zeus is. But what happens, but they're mistakenly known as chicken hawks. And what happens is they're by the chicken coop and they see mice and rats eating chicken feed. Well, farmers come out and say, oh, it's a chicken hawk, and they get shot because the farmers think they're getting their chickens. And it's illegal by the Federal Migratory Bird Act to harm red-tailed hawks. So next time you see a red-tailed hawk outside, just think, hey, they're eating this pesky rodent I really don't like, because that's their favorite thing to eat. That's all Captain wants, is little mice and rats for lunch and dinner. So they're really good hunters. If you're on a 10-story building, which is about 1.5 miles high up in the sky, he could see all the way down to the ground, see a little mouse or little rat. That's really good eyesight, right? Or if he's on one end of a football field, like an NFL football field, he could see a mouse at the other end.
Wow.
Wow, yes. And he is a diurnal. Remember what that means? Daytime.
Oh.
I know. Sometimes I get them mixed up too. And he has smaller eyes than ours, doesn't he? And these smaller eyes, he doesn't need the really big eyes at night. So he has smaller eyes, he's diurnal. And one of the things that make him really, really good hunters, besides their eyesight, is his really big feet, which are called talons.
You can pick stuff up.
Well, he can pick up stuff. He has a really, really strong grip, about the weight of a baby elephant. That's really strong. So they also use some talons for mating. So when he finds his best friend for life, they lock talons and they spiral down towards the ground. And right before they hit the ground, they let go and do that over and over. And then the best friends go and build a nest together, and they lay 3 to 5 eggs, and the mother stays at the nest, defending the eggs and feeding the babies while the father goes off and hunts for food. Kind of similar to humans, right? They take care of the babies together. So, how many of you guys have ever watched a movie and there's a big eagle soaring across the sky? Yeah? Have you ever heard this? And the eagle makes that noise? That's not an eagle. That is a red-tailed hawk called. Eagles chirp, but a lot of times in movies, because the eagle's this really big bird, right? They think it's really cool to put that loud screech. That's really these guys. So, but Captain won't talk, so he's a quiet guy. So, about how much do you think Captain weighs? You.
70.
70 pounds? Any other guesses? You back there in the green.
10 pounds.
10 pounds? One more. You?
50.
50. Okay. These are all really, really good guesses because he looks heavy, right? But hawks have hollow bones. And these hollow bones, for 2 reasons. One, so they can take flight because it's really, really hard to get 50 pounds off the ground, right? Yeah. So, or 70 pounds. That's a lot of weight to lift. I mean, an airplane can do it, but they have engines and mechanics. But he just has wings. The second reason is they kind of look like your kitchen sponge at home. They're very spongy looking. And they use their bones as part of the respiratory system, which means they use their bones as part of their breathing, which is really cool. Captain weighs 3 pounds. He only weighs 3 pounds. And you can kind of tell the difference between females and males because the females are generally larger and the males are smaller. Yes. Red-tailed hawks can weigh anywhere between 2 and 5 pounds. So you really don't ever see them over 5 pounds. So they actually weigh very little. So Captain is about 3 years old, and so we've had him for about that long. And how many of you guys know when the older people get, the grayer they get? Yeah. that happens. Yeah, you get gray hair eventually. And you guys got a long time though. But for red-tailed hawks, they get darker. So you can see it's really light brown eyes and light brown feathers. Well, when captains start to get really older, they darken, which is really cool. So that can be kind of used to tell age. And they can live about 20 years in the wild, and they can actually live up to 30 years in captivity. Any questions?
Can he turn his whole head around?
No. No animal can. It's unfortunately not a cool thing we have. But
It looks like he does.
it does, because his neck is really skinny, but he has all those feathers, so it kind of makes it look like he does.
What is he allergic
Is he allergic to anything? Not that I know of. I don't think
Cars.
there's any allergies. It is a good question.
to? How did he get his name?
Captain, that's the name that was chosen for him.
Jim named him.
One of our volunteers at the center thought that'd be a really good name
He
for him.
stands up like a captain.
Yeah.
He does, very,
Regal.
very
He definitely owns up to the
authoritative.
name, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
Yar. So that's what
Looks like he's in charge.
that around
His bracelet.
The jesses, the bracelets. These are called jesses, and this is what we put on him, and it's for both our safety and his safety. So that way, if like we need to get him out of his home to check on him for health and to weigh him, it's easier for us with the leash on, and it helps keep him safe and us. So it's kind of like when you put a collar and a leash on your dog to take him for a walk.
Or cat.
Or a cat, if you walk your cat.
His claws are big, so he can dig them
Yeah, some
better.
people do.
Yes,
But
that's
they
why
all
mine
talk
are
to
low.
do.
It's not recommended to do this out.
Sometimes they tell
You. Yes.
how high can he fly.
They can fly pretty high up in the sky.
I've seen him almost
Yeah.
disappear. I mean,
I've
so
seen
high.
them, yeah. But eventually they're gonna hit like the ozone level and then they can't go up anymore. So there is a boundary. One more question. You in the gray shirt.
And then
Henry, she called on you. What's your question?
he can fly.
Yes, he can, but he's blind, so it really makes it harder.
He's blind in one eye,
Yeah,
so he
his
can
right
see.
eye. So like when he turns his head now, he can see me, but when he's facing you guys, he can no longer see me. And this kind of makes it a lot harder to hunt. Can you imagine going through your life with only one eye? Yeah, it's like doing that.
Yeah, I can see you. I got a telling thing that what means that you throw what means when you throw
Make it
the
towards
trash on the ground. Damage.
So that's Captain.
Damage.
Damage. His eyes damaged. Yes, he left. He has damage.
Okay, so we looked at a lot of cool adaptations for nocturnal and diurnal. Are there any things that you can think of that make humans diurnal?
So what makes us live in the daytime?
Eyesight.
That's right, we have really small eyes, so we can't see as well at night.
So good in the daytime, not so good at nighttime. Anybody else?
When do you wake up, boys and girls?
In the morning.
In the morning.
Yeah, we're awake in the morning. Anything else that you guys can think of?
We eat in the daytime.
In the daytime, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly right. Good job.
So they have all these adaptations that help determine whether they live in the daytime or the nighttime, whether they fly high in the sky or they move through the forest. So we'd like to tell you that, if you ever find an orphaned or injured animal, you can call us. Your safety is number one, so don't approach it without an adult. Give us a call and we can either talk you through it or we can come out and get the animal.
What if it runs away before you get to call him?
Well, if he runs away, then maybe.
Then
He's
it's
not,
not
yeah,
hurt.
he's not that
It might be
injured.
okay.
Are there any animals that you will not accept? I mean, do you do birds and reptiles? or-
Yeah,
No
there's
animals?
rabies vector species like raccoons, foxes, bats, coyotes, and
Skunks.
skunks. We can not accept in the state of North Carolina.
And we're also not
that's a
licensed for
state.
bear.
Or bears.
And that's
deer.
a state regulation.
That's
Do
a
you
state
have
law.
lions?
Yes.
No,
No,
They're not
but we
native
do
to
have
here.
bobcats sometimes.
Yeah, we do.
I like
Yeah.
bobcats.
Yeah. So we'd like to thank you guys for being a great audience. We'd like to thank the teachers and the school for having us out here.
We enjoyed it.
Everybody is here.